Who
It
knows
would.
what kind of topics we end up talking about. So yeah, so Julie says, love to explore changing up the ideas of who we have thought we were and embracing the authentic, real you. Yeah. Um, and I think a lot of what we do in the streams that we present is really ultimately geared towards that topic. I mean, it's ultimately about you showing up as you in your full authenticity, and and with full resources of the magnitude of the greatness that we believe you are. Right. We understand that, you know, our watchers, our fans, our members, don't always believe that in themselves. But we do. We believe that there's a greatness beyond what they think, and even one beyond what we think. You know, and we're always trying to explore that. Well, you know, if we're thinking they're this great, then there's some part of us that can contain more of that. How do we access that? And you know, Ross and I were talking about it last night, I think, or yeah, yesterday, after the stream, I think, where you know, it's like we are stepping into, as best as we can, with our practices and with our understanding, with our experience, we are regularly stepping into our future selves with a vision of your future self and pulling you into that with the streams and the information that we do, right? And as opposed to having to work through something, we want it to be that you're being invited into that experience through the hacks, through the information that we deliver, and the offerings that we have. So
And part of that comes from a lot of the things that we've been doing for the last 40 some weeks is for that to happen. A lot of a lot of the minutia needs to be kind of cleared away. And as we've said, you know, we don't necessarily believe in eliminating anything because, you know, when you say, well, you need to get rid of that, it's just like, well, but it's part of me. It's this, you know, whether it be a bad experience, a bad programming, whatever it is, it serves some purpose in getting you to this point and such. And the idea is to become simply aware of it. And then once you're aware of it, making a choice. Am I going to continue to allow this to, you know, uh, move my life in a direction that I don't want it to be? Or an empowering thought, or it's an empowering habit. And, you know, I want more of this. And once that happens, it's you know it's kind of a first step of enlightenment, is where you're like, wow, I really do have choices. And then you can start really designing what that future self is going to be. And when we get to that point, then it's so much easier to say, oh, I'm going to go into my future self, and, you know, pull me into my vision, instead of pushing and pushing and pushing. And because when you're pushing, something's pushing back, because you're missing the congruency between the two. So you basically have two futures fighting each other. And once we can get past that and just like, oh, and I do, at least when I get into that state of mind, I literally feel like this. I just feel like I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And then I can kind of, you know, again in my mind, turn and look and go, hey, come on, you know, I mean, this is pretty cool up here. And it's a phenomenal feeling.
so I did a process many years ago which totally altered my life, from a buddy of mine who introduced me to, called the Enlightenment Intensive. My buddy's named Satyan Raja, and in the Enlightenment process, so Enlightenment Intensive, um, the objective of the I think it was 3.5 day meditation process, was just to contemplate and meditate on the idea, who am I? So all we asked for the whole time was, who am I? And try to get a direct experience of that, right? It's one of the how do we put, I mean, to put in words is just, it's hard, because the experience is scary as scary can get, right? It's as challenging as challenge can get. It's as exciting can get. And I mean, any emotion you can think of, it all comes to the table throughout that whole experience, because all you're doing is, you're doing like hours and hours and hours of processes where you're just trying to answer, who am I? You're trying to get that connection of, who am I? And the real experience, not the made up one, not the thought, not the idea, not the concept, not the taught, all those things. So you strip through all those things, and your objective is, within 3 days, to have a direct experience of who you are, an enlightened experience. And we pull from that throughout our process. When Ross, and the reason that Ross is saying he's feeling this is because, at the stage we're at now, we're there's really three questions that we're consistently playing with. The one is, who am I? Which brings us to the present, right? Who am I now? Like, that brings us into the now. But there's also, who was I?
Yeah.
Right? And then there's the who do I, and we teach this in the 7 day art of designing your reality program. Is, who do I need to be to have the experience of reality that I want? So we're always playing with those three, and realizing that that one is not more valuable than the other. That's the trick that people start to, that's the trap that people start to fall into, is thinking that I should only be focused. Well, no, you can't just focus on the future. Come on, give me a break. You need to have that reference and those learnings and those experiences to, first of all, know where you're at, and then decide where you're going to go. Right? And in the enlightenment experience, the enlightenment intensive, one of the things that I really got was, there was no I-ness that was locked in a look. It was omnipresent, right? The me that's showing up here is the me that was, is the me that's going to be. It's all of it combined into right here. And the thing that Ross and I bring to the table from there is that, okay, now that you have that, there's this place that we call the choice convergence point, where all those possible realities, past, present, future, alternate future, potential past, alternate past, all those things are in this bubble called the choice convergence point, where we can then choose, which gives us a place of solitude to say that, hey, I have choice in the reality that I experience, and that gives me power. It gives me a sense of ability to have direction by choice, as opposed to being influenced by things and just kind of falling into the role of the way something is said it should be, or I've seen that that's what people do, so that's what I got to, and to have more flexibility in our experience of reality.